Thank you.
Fine.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm gonna try to do this in English. I'm sorry for my very cute accent and my broken English, but I think it's gonna be easier to have the conversation and
That's
they
great.
have translator. So everyone have seen the movie, so I don't have to explain how great the movie was. But the first thing I want to ask before getting into the movie, that I have plenty of questions. I want to know how an intern in Pixar became like the director of their golden Toy Story, and then now Transformer One, like in such a little period of time.
Well, I never thought this would happen. It wasn't a goal to become a director initially. I went to art school because I wanted to be a 2D animator, and then my final semester, I realized there were no jobs, and so I was like, maybe I should become a story artist because it's the same idea, drawing and everything. So I took a story class, and I really loved it a lot, and then became. I was asked to join Pixar as the first story intern, and I loved it. I was cleaning up storyboards and just doing the job, and then I just kept working my way up. I became story artist, and then after I was head of story on Inside Out, and Pete Docter, Pete Docter said to me. I don't know what should happen. He came into my office one day and he goes, I don't know what should happen in this one scene where joy and sadness aren't getting along. And so I was like, oh, what if Joy draws a circle on the ground? She calls it the circle of sadness and tells her to stand in that. And he goes, oh, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Why don't you write that down? And I said, on a piece of paper? Or like, what are you talking? He's like, no, just put it in the script. So I said, okay. And I did that, and he liked it. And he said, now do it with this scene and that scene. And by the end of the show, I had written the movie.
That's really amazing because that's something that normally doesn't happen. Like a lot of story artists, we help a lot with the story, but to give you the title of writer, that's
Yeah,
something that you
big
have to
deal.
be really good at that, or they love you a lot, or both things. Like to give you that title.
Well, yeah, I did a lot of writing on it. So I became a writer that way. I didn't set out to do it, but that just happened. And then right after that, they asked me to direct the short for Inside Out, which I wrote and directed. And then after that, they said, we like what you did. We would you direct Toy Story 4.
Wow, that's a big jump, no? There.
Yeah.
Especially because Pixar normally, I mean, basing all the information I have from different people, I always heard that it's very hard to be a director there, that they normally, Lasseter bring like their amazing friends, and it was very, very hard to jump into directing. And they handled you Toy Story, that is
I
like,
know.
dude, that's like history of animation. So you are doing the fourth part, which is very complicated also because the third one was already so good, and the second
I
and the
know.
first one is like, why we even need a fourth one?
That
you
was
know?
my first question when they said Toy Story 4. I said, well, why? Because I thought it was over, and the answer was Andrew Stanton had written the script, and he said this is the end of Woody's story. And I went, oh, okay. Now it's if you always think of the toys, they're actually parents that are overseeing their kid. That's the relationship. And so now that they're gone from Andy, it's like it's empty nest syndrome. So I was like, oh, I like that. I could see where this can go. So, but yeah, it was terrifying.
Yeah, I can imagine. That was the other thing, like how you did it. Like I imagine, like that we all have that syndrome, the imposter syndrome. Like, but your syndrome had to be like, how did you?
I'm a
even
huge
handle to do
imposter.
that? Yeah, you had to be.
No, it's for everything. It's all about the characters in the story and just telling the best story possible. And I try not to think about the fandom, and it's really hard because I'm a fan as well of all of this. So I try and just drill down to the character and just getting that right.
Well, I think you did a great job with Toy Story 4.
Thank you.
It was a good ending for Buddy, and then how this project count, because they asked you to finish with Toy Story, but they also asked you later to restart the franchise of Transformer, because you're telling the ending of the Toy Story at the very beginning of the Transformer, instead of everything happened even before the TV show from the 80s and all the Michael Bay movies and things like that.
Yeah, so after I finished Toy Story 4, I was able to I was given the script for Transformers, and it was the same thing. I said, well, it's Transformers. They've made like 9 of these movies. what's
I like
new
how
here?
honest you are, by the way.
Was that?
I like how honest
Well,
you are. Because
I'm
I was
just
thinking the
I'm
same.
just the audience. You know, it's like and I'm also going to be spending years of my life on this, right? And so it's got to be something that I want to see and something that I care about. And so I saw the title Transformers. I was like, okay, what's new about this? And I opened the script and I realized right away that the entire thing was set on Cybertron, which already I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to see what that planet looks like when it was alive and not dying. And that means there's no humans in it, which is exciting because that means I could put all the emotion into the Transformers, the characters we actually care about. And I should back up and say I grew up watching the original cartoon in the 80s, so I had a little bit of
you were a big fan or just...
Yeah,
you know?
well, Saturday morning cartoons, it's the reason I got into animation. I just loved, first of all, there's no school, which was great. And then just I just have fond memories of lying on the carpet next to my brother, eating cereal, and just spending half the day watching cartoons. So Transformers was part of that, you know, G.I. Joe, He-Man, all those things. But so I came with a little bit of a knowledge and care for those characters. But then the big thing that really got me excited about this film was that relationship between Optimus and Megatron when they were friends. So that I've never seen. I know they've done it in some of the comic books for Transformers, but I've never seen that on screen before. And that was really intriguing to me. So because I knew as an audience member, if I was coming into this fresh, I know Optimus and Megatron are enemies. So I knew if we could start the movie and show them as friends and make the audience actually care about that relationship and really feel it, you would always have that knowledge in the back of your head, like, oh, it's not going to work out. And that's great tension. That was just tension, and I just knew that could really carry the film.
Yeah, but I think one of the great thing of the movie is that even if you know they're going to be super rivals, and it's true, I was having the same feeling, like, this is not going to end well, you know?
Yeah.
But even if you don't know about them, I feel like with this movie, with the Transformer 1, even if you don't know the franchise, you can enjoy the movie because it's at the very beginning. So you don't have to know much on how it ends and everything. Of course, for me, was like I want to see them.
Sure.
One thing, I want to see them, the transformation, and I want to see then how it became Optimus Prime, Megatron, you know?
Yeah, and that was one of it too. The big thing about it was I want to make a film that's a Transformers film. That means it has to have everything that, you know, scale, action, fun, all of the excitement of Transformers. But I want the audience to come into this that can come in with know nothing and be completely, you know, brand new, but still enjoy it and just as much fun as the super fans.
But I think it works great in that way, and also you can feel like you like it, the show in the 80s. I'm from the 80s too, so I watched that too. Same thing, Saturday, just in Spanish, but kind of the same thing, and I like it a lot too. So and one of the things is that you were talking about, you know, starting from the beginning, you know, starting from the beginning of the story. So there is a lot of things that it haven't been shown in other movies or TV shows. How much and you and the writers put into the movie in a way like new things, like the cogs, for example, and things like that. I'm not totally sure. Maybe I'm making a mistake here. No, that was in a comic. I don't know. But it feels like it was new to me, or especially their personalities they have, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, it's super different. They are like two different kind of teenagers with very different personalities and how they became the character they are at the end.
Yeah, I thought I was a fan of Transformers, but I didn't realize how much lore there is. It really is a ton, but I was lucky to have Hasbro right there next to me to, you know, I'd ask them a question about, what about this character? What do you have designs from years ago? And they'd bring us everything, which was pretty cool. But it was really, the lore was really deep, but there was too much of it. And I wanted to make sure that we didn't lose the fact that this is a movie about this relationship. That was the thing that I held on to the entire time, was there's all these, you know, my artists are coming up with designs, there's a lot of story ideas, but I need to hold on to that relationship and make sure that we don't lose that, because that's the movie in my head. And so, what was the second part of your question? I
forget too. No, how was working with, for example, how was working with Hasbro in a way that you are doing new things that there was not, like, what I was trying to aim there is like how open they were to new ideas, like, hey, what about if we do this, you know, like when it's a very solid franchise.
They do have a group at Hasbro that's called the, I forget their name, the brand team. And so they're in charge of Transformers. Every single thing that's for Transformers goes through this group of people. And so every version of the script, they'd have to read it. And but I was extremely happy with how open they were about everything. They Transformers itself is actually born out of before the cartoon series, it was a toy. They made the cartoons to sell the toy, but they were making the cartoons in America and in Japan at the same time. But they're totally separate. Like these same characters had different names and different attitudes. So it wasn't like Star Wars where like linear.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a shotgun blast of story ideas. And so it was really nice to be able to kind of just treat it like a sandbox and just kind of play inside of that sandbox.
How was to create the planet, the Cybertron? Like you were talking about, there is no humans in the movie, which is very complicated because it's one of the rules of Hollywood. Like you can make a movie of gremlins, but you have to show humans. You cannot make a movie just with gremlins. That would be fun, in fact. But probably that would be very hard for the audience to connect. Or you can do Avatar, but you need humans somehow. If it's not just the navis around, it's not enough, But you make a movie which is very complicated, and in their planet with no humans, so you don't have the human point of view of the things because they are already all robots. Right. But at the same time, I feel like watching the movie that these Transformers are more human than any other Transformer we have seen before.
That's
maybe
exactly
because
right.
of that. So can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I knew that with the live action films, the humans it's always like a fish out of water story where the humans are always looking up to the robots. So the only thing we can connect to are the humans right there, or what we would naturally connect to. So not having humans meant putting all of that emotion and all of the connection, all the empathy into the characters, which is what got me really interested. And that meant redesigning them in a new way. So in the live action ones, they're very, you have to put them on screen next to a human, so it has to be very detailed. And that's why they have every single little nut and bolt on their face and everything. But for our purposes, that was too complicated. I didn't want to use those designs. It needed to be designs that are a little cleaner so we could really see their faces. And I told the animators as we were designing it that I want to make sure we could turn the sound off on the movie and still see their expressions and understand how they're feeling, understand the subtext, and just see the acting really well. And so that was the goal. That's why they have, the tough thing is, I didn't think about this early on, they basically have American football helmets on, the whole time, and pads. So it's hard to...
the body language especially, it's more complicated.
The body language is hard.
Hey, like, they cannot be like...
We can't be in the room together, they're tilted. But it was, Industrial Light and Magic did the animation, and they're amazing. So it was fun to work with them. One of the things, sorry, I'm just kind of...
No, it's fine. Go ahead. I was going to ask you how I was working with them, but now you're
one
going
of the
through all the questions. It's good.
This kind of ties to what you're saying. So I always think of the characters like physically, the characters are robots, but inside they're human. And the same thing with toys, with Toy Story, same thing with Rats and Ratatouille, all of that. They have the human emotion. So, but they deal with the trouble of their physical body. But so with the robots, it was with Transformers. Like what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to think of what to say. I'm blinking a lot, and that's something that I want the animators to do with our characters, just to show the thought process. But our robots don't have eyeballs, and so it's like, well, how are we going to show them thinking when they don't blink? And they came up with an idea of treating their eyeballs like camera lenses, and so they're kind of moving like this, and that's when they're just not talking and their eyes are darting, but they're just going to, and that's just keeping it alive and just showing that there's something going on up there.
Yeah, you can see there is a lot of work in the eyes. Like I can see like a lot of mechanisms, like even like because it's what you're saying. Like you can go to a robot very simple, like the robot in WALL-E, and when it's very simple, you can just with a little of light in the right place, you can give a lot of emotion.
Exactly.
But when it's more human face, is very complicated because all of a sudden it can be this uncanny valley, you know. But I like it that you keep like the classic style of the TV show from the 80s on the face, and to put all the expressive in the eyes with all the things you are saying. Like it really works very good. I imagine that was a pain in the ass for the animation team and the rigging and everything. No?
It's a lot of work, but yeah, but that was the most important thing for me. I wanted to make sure that this is the most, like you said, the most human story told with these characters.
It works very well, and also the planet, like Cybertron.
Oh yeah,
That have to be. I was thinking a lot in production ways. You know, like my ideas, like, oh my God, imagine to make a movie where everything is made of metal. You know, like you have the same texture of almost everything. You have rock, you have a little of vegetation on the top, but mostly it's all metal. How to make this appealing, you know, because the planet by script have to be a place they want to come back, you know, when they are in the Earth. So you have to show, like, for Transformer, this is their home, and it's a cool place. It's very easy to show a very sad place or not appealing place, like in Matrix, you know, the future with all this. But how to do that in a way that works without going to human, like adding, let's say, chairs, glasses, things that we humans use, but they don't drink, they don't sit much.
Right.
So I imagine that was like very complicated in the point of view of design.
Well, I realized early on that the Cybertron, the planet, is what's at stake for all those characters. And so, because in the lore, what happens is the two of them become enemies, and then a war breaks out, and then the planet starts to die, and they have to leave and go to Earth. So they're fighting over their home. And so as an audience member, I want to be able to go, oh yeah, I would fight for that too. And so it needed to be beautiful. Their whole plant's made of metal. It transforms by itself, which that's just ripe for animation. It's perfect for animation. And so, but I didn't want it to look like a big silver ball in the sky, you know, like the Death Star or something. I wanted it to feel as relatable to Earth as we could, but still be metal. So one of the things we did is I worked with my production designer, Jason Shire, he pulled up metals from all over the world that are just different colors, and they're not silver, and they have different reflections or different textures to them, and we used all of those to build the planet, so it felt like it was more alive than just a chunk of metal.
Yeah, and it works great, and I personally like it. I love the idea that everything is kind of upside down in the center.
Oh yeah,
that was just visually is very cool, and also help a lot to the moment where Optimus Prime is coming to the center in the climatic moment, and the surface and everything, when everything is recreating as they are moving.
Right.
Feels like, I don't know what is that happening, but you know, it's Transformer planet, so why not? I buy that, and I like it. It's beautiful.
I wanted the planet to have some like natural transformation, so very similar to like how we have waves or wind on our planet, and we don't really think about it. I think that it could be cool if they have movement that just kind of feels more natural.
It looks great. I wanted to ask you, like, how was the production in ways like this? You were talking about ILM, but also it's Paramount movies, so you were doing, I don't know, pre-production in Paramount and then the production in Vancouver,
yes.
Maybe?
So, so at Paramount we're doing story, art, and layout, and then we would go to ILM, but it was ILM in Sydney, Australia.
Sydney. Okay.
And so it was really cool because we would Zoom every day for the animation dailies, but then I would occasionally go over there, I think 5 or 6 times in the last year and a half, and just have FaceTime with the animators, which was really fun. And then in Byron Bay, which is about an hour north of Sydney, is where Chris Hemsworth lives. And he'd be like, "Hey, mate, come on over." I'd be like, "All right." And so we recorded all of his dialogue in his house.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thought in by
with
you
no
to his
shoes
house. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So talking about him, like how I was working with the casting, like I imagine, it's a huge casting. It's a really good one.
It was terrifying at first.
It really works fine in a way that, I feel you need different actors to tell the story of these Transformers, that they are very different. They're more human.
Yeah.
And they're before becoming the legends that they are. So
yeah, but that was a tough one because the Optimus Prime, his voice is so iconic, and that's the Optimus Prime I grew up with, and so I wanted to make sure that it felt like he's a Ryan Pax, which will eventually become Optimus Prime, and that in my mind that made me go, okay, I can figure this out now, because he's not doing an impersonation, he's not doing the exact same thing, He's a younger version. He's a little less refined. He's not as wise yet. He doesn't have all the knowledge that he'll eventually have. So, and Chris has a very deep voice naturally, and so it was fun to talk to him about that. And once he agreed to do it, we really he's got a very brilliant story mind actually, and he's really funny. And so we spent a lot of time talking about how we can approach this character in a way that makes him charming, but also kind of doing the wrong thing for the right reasons at first, and then he can evolve into closer to Optimus Prime that we know.
And you can see during the movie that he's evolving the way of talking and everything. Like
and
Megatron, same thing. Like at the end, especially at the very end of the movie, feels like very similar to the voice that we know. I mean, in Spanish it was different, but sounds exactly the same. But in Spanish it was a very good voice. It really feels like, oh, now he's.
And that was we wanted that to feel right. We wanted that to so you feel like he's changing and growing. And I remember the first time that Chris started to do that change. We were recording, and before he was kind of like sitting back like this, but then as he started sitting up a little taller, and he started to have the cadence of the talk, and I got goosebumps. And I asked him, I said, "What are you doing right now?" And he said, "I thought I'd try something." I'm like, no, let's keep doing that. That's pretty good. Yeah. So he was fantastic. I had worked with Keegan-Michael Key and with Scarlett Johansson on previous projects, and so as we were developing the movie, I called them up and I said, all I can hear is your guys' voices in this movie. Would you be at all interested? And they said, absolutely, which is pretty cool. And then Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron, he was phenomenal. He was just, same thing, we talked about how this character can have a full arc, and telling that story in the voice, and he said, here's how I can approach this character. When I was in college and young, I was angry about this, and this, and he said, so that I'm going to bring that into it. And he was kind of asking my permission, and I said, absolutely. So it was pretty great.
So yeah, I can see that in the movie. That, well, I wanted to ask you. You kind of tell me right now, like how much the character changed from the script piece of paper to the final movie, thanks to the performance, or thanks to any improvement in the recording room.
For sure. There's two moments making an animated film that I feel like you get some. I can be surprised because everything else has to be planned. Like every single breath, every single dust in the air. Like I direct all of that stuff, and so there's only a few moments when you get really surprised by something. And the first one is during recording sessions, because the actors will say something that you're like, "Whoa, I didn't think of that." Like, or they'll say it a different way. The other time is when the score is written and performed for the first time, because it totally changes the movie. And I always get really emotional during that time because it's like, oh, this is a movie now. But with the actors, it's really great, and all of them did this. Every single one of them brought a piece of themselves, which is what I wanted. I wanted their personality to come through. So every single line of dialogue, I would say, does this feel right? Can you play around with it? I want them to feel like they're playing, and because that's really what it is. And then we can, we're recording the whole time, so I have lots to pick from. And but I want them to be involved. I want them to bring their ideas and everything. So it's very, very collaborative.
Yeah, I imagine that's like the best moment, as you said, because everything in animation, I mean, I think everyone here knows about animation, goes so slow that you cannot improvise. There is no mistakes that you can embrace or nothing like that. It's like, this is how it is, And when you are with the actor, it feels like, oh, you know what, I like this. I changed my mind right away,
Yeah.
So this is very great. And talking about the score that you were saying before, from Brian Tyler, I think is it? Sorry, I'm very bad with names.
Brian Tyler.
Okay. How I was working with him, like I really like it a lot, especially that was my favorite sequence, in fact, in the movie, the sequence you're waiting all the time when you're watching the movie, like I want to see the moment where they became what I want to see, There's a lot of silence in that sequence, and there is wonderful music, and when, with Optimus Prime became Optimus Prime, and so on, and I think in that moment, the music works really, really good. And what do you think? How was the...
I'd never met him before working on this film, and our first meeting, we clicked really well, and I loved everything he was saying. He was responding to everything I was saying about the relationship. There was at the very end of our meeting, I was thinking in my head, I'm going, I think he's got this. I think he understands what I'm going for, and so I said, there's one. This is one thought I want to give you, and I know this is very hard to describe, but I have this feeling of how I want the entire music to sound. And I said, I'm having trouble putting it to words. So I asked him, have you ever read Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan, which is about this photograph that was taken of Earth back, I can't remember what year it was now, 91, I think. But it was a photograph that was the furthest that the camera has ever been away from Earth, and they took a picture. And Earth is about a pixel. It's really tiny. And so there's this poem that Carl Sagan, or excerpt he wrote about it, talking about how every single person you've ever loved, ever known, any person that's ever existed, ever, every king, every peasant, every villain, every hero, every single person lived on that tiny dot suspended in the moon. It's like a beautiful, beautiful poem. And every time I read it, it makes me feel insignificant and also like amazing as well. So I said, I don't know how to put this, but I would like you to capture the music to feel like that.
Wow,
that feeling I have. But here's how I knew it was right. He just stared at me. I thought he was going to be like, "You're insane," but he said, "Pale Blue Dot was in my wedding vows."
Wow.
And I went, "Oh," and he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Yeah, yeah," and that was it. And so the music he wrote, I feel captures that. It captures this massive, legendary tone, but also extremely personal.
Mm-hmm. So for you, working on the movie, what was like? This is very hard to imagine, but have you ever been watching the movie like in a screening these days, like trying to sit there and just watch a movie when you watch a movie?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and you are good at that? That you're like
watching,
you just forget? Yeah, just watching it and forget that you work in the movie and you spend 5 years of your life there, and just try to watch the movie and enjoy it.
I can do that if I'm watching other people watch it.
Okay, well,
you know what I mean?
That's twisted, but okay.
No, but think about it. Have you ever seen a movie and you tell your friend, "Oh, you have to see this movie," and I'll go with you, and you're sitting next to them, and you're kind of watching them, like watch it. And it's that feeling. Like, so when we had the audience previews for the very first audience previews for this film, when they finally become Optimus and Megatron, or actually, it's when you just watched it, right? So I could talk spoilers. When he gets shot, I purposefully wanted the sound to go out completely, just to make it really stand out. And so at the audience preview, I was kind of on the side, just going like this, watching, and he gets shot, and it goes completely silent, and there was a bunch of kids everywhere and everything. Everybody's just completely still. And it gave me, I was like, whoa. That's cool. Yeah. Good. As a storyteller, like that's what you want. You want everybody to be completely engaged in what you're doing. And so it was just stillness. And so I asked the producer, like, "Did you see that? That was pretty." And they're like, "Yeah." So then we went to the next audience preview. The same thing happened. And then we went to Annecy, and this screening for almost 1,000 people, and you could hear a pin drop. And I love watching the audience. That same feeling of like, I hope this works, and that moment seemed to work. So
yeah, well, that's something now very hard to do with Netflix and things like that. You cannot be like staring people through the window like it's working
in the window.
Now, but that kind of answered me the question I wanted to ask you. Like, if you try to imagine that you didn't work on the movie and you see the movie and try to forget about everything, what will be your favorite part of the movie? Like, what will be the part that is like, dude, this works great. I'm proud of me and my team because this worked exactly like I wanted. Like, what would be your favorite section?
Well, it's Act 3. It's the when the music is the only thing carrying it. I want it to feel almost operatic and just so legendary. And I was like, no dialogue can help with that. Like, we've set up all the dominoes. Like, now we're just watching them fall. And the only lines of dialogue I wanted was Megatron saying, "I'm going to be the leader," and then you go down below and Alpha Trion says, "Hey, you're going to be the leader," and then he says, "I am Megatron," and he goes, "Arise, Optimus Prime." I just wanted the like black, white, black, white, black, white, and then when when they fight and Megatron leaves, I wanted to immediately go to the first moment that they ever met, just so you could see that real strong contrast between in that relationship, in that friendship, because I just knew that that would be a really powerful moment if everything would play correctly. You know,
It works very good, and that wasn't the
Thank you.
moment I was like, I knew I was gonna like it, and I like it. Yeah, you know, like that was you give me exactly the candy I was looking for, you know, in that moment. So how was like building in a story ways the relationship, like how I imagine like because at the end you have 1 hour and 40 minutes, and you have to tell, okay, they are cool, they are good
Yeah.
friends, and little by little, because you cannot do it like right away, you
Right.
know, little by little they have to be like getting in different directions until until that sequence happens, you
Right.
know. And how I imagine that was very hard to find like, okay, you have to be in this sequence, like no, like, push it a little more, like we
That's
don't have
exactly
room,
right.
you know,
It-
like we have to
it
we have to
was-
go to the next step here, because if it's not, it's gonna be like the jump is gonna be very big if we do this in 2 sequences ahead, for example.
It was that was the trick, was finding that balance, the right things. And I think a lot of it, usually, you know, if you hear that there's a quote, if you have an Act 3 problem, it actually means you have an Act 1 problem, hasn't been set up correctly.
So it happened a lot to storyboard artists.
Y-
Like, okay,
yeah.
we have to go back.
You have to go
Act
back
1,
and fix the setup for it. So one of the big things for the setup was that their relationship was not just, we're friends. You know, like it needed to be real, where Megatron is kind of annoyed, or D16 is a little annoyed that Orion keeps pulling him into these little adventures. And so he's like, they're friendly, but also like, man, why'd you do that? You know, which makes it feel more real anyway. So there's already a little bit of tension in there. And then on top of that, it was, how do you buy that D16 is actually going to be really angry? And it was, Sentinel was so important. You had to make him even worse. And doing that was making him this great guy up front, and then once the twist happens, like he's the worst guy, and then he's carving into him. He's really, really bad. So that the audience goes, oh, for the first time I understand Megatron, and I get why he's doing this. And it's not until he goes too far. Actually, the plot of the movie is finished once everybody sees the truth. The movie's kind of over, but Megatron keeps going, and that's where we realize, okay, that's when they can finally compete. But everything from the beginning to that point was, have we gone too far? No, have we not gone far enough? And so each scene was finding that balance in there.
It was very interesting for me that you picked like for D16, like his attitude was like, hey, let's follow the rules. Because the change is even bigger. Like it's not like, for example, let's say Anakin Skywalker. Like from the beginning, he's a little like, fuck this, fuck that.
Yeah.
You know? So you see, like, oh, he's gonna get in trouble
Right.
soon if he doesn't go to the right direction. But he's like following the rules, and then he became this villain. And I don't know if you have like something like a second thought, like or something like that, like a message to say, like, you know what, following the rules is fine, but that's not. There is a moment you have to stop and think, like, let's not follow all the rules. Maybe, I don't know if there is something there, because the easier thing will be just to make it like the opposite, a little bit. Like, no, he's not following the rules. He want more. More like Optimus Prime. In fact.
Right, but I wanted the switch to happen. And if he's already going, I don't like the rules, I don't like the rules, then once he becomes a bad guy, he's saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't like the rules, I don't like the rules. But if you have him going, no, we should follow the rules, we need to keep our head here, and then realize, wait, everything I know is a lie? Like, that's going to really set him off. And then if you think about it, one of the things I wanted to do is have Orion kind of be the rebel, kind of be the guy that's like, hey man, let's go break the rules, come on, like let's run the race, let's do this, let's go up to the surface even though we're not supposed to. He's kind of egging him on the whole time, and so in a way, Orion creates his own villain.
That's true.
Yeah.
I didn't thought about that. That's very interesting. So I was talking to you about the sequence that you like it the most, and now I want to ask you, not the sequence you like it the less, because all the sequences are wonderful in this movie, it's a great movie, but I want to ask you about that sequence that every time you see it, even if it works fine, gives you like bad memories, like, oh my God, that sequence was a pain in the ass, that was so complicated, and at the end it works fine, but it was very complex for any reason. Like, and every movie have that sequence of that shot, like that was the more complicated one, and people don't even appreciate it. That you don't know how. I don't know if it was something like that. Maybe everything was wonderful in the production.
Well,
you don't have that. I don't believe
what
that.
movie has that ever happened?
Exactly.
You know which one? this one was tough all around. Was when they're in the cave and Alpha Trion says, "Let me show you the truth." He puts his hand down, all the sand comes up and all that. So just technically, that was a crazy, crazy scene. I remember pitching it to ILM over Zoom, and I said, they're in this cave, and then all these sand metal sculptures come to life and start acting out everything around them, and then they start fighting and everything, and there's explosions, but it's all made of sand, and I could see them going, okay. And they said, we'll figure something out. Yeah, sure.
Well, it's ILM. They have to.
I know, and that's
like
what they do. That's their thing. But at the same time, but even getting up to that point, it was how do you tell a flashback in an interesting way that's not just another hologram or somebody going, everybody sit down, let me tell you a story. Like, it was cool just to have it almost be like augmented reality around them. And so now it's not just them being told a story, they're actually kind of living it. And it allows D16 to like see his hero right there in front of him, get his head chopped off. And then you're like, oh, now I understand where he's coming from. So that was a tough one because it just knew technically it was going to be challenging and also just story-wise how to do it.
Yeah, but you always have to give them something to work with that, it's ILM again.
Yeah.
So okay, this movie, it's the same thing with Brave. When Pixar came out, these have like 1,000 million of hair, but this movie there is no hair at all. So that's gonna be much easier. But I had this sequence with the sun that is complicated.
Exactly, yeah. No clothes.
So, well, I don't know how we are with the time because I'm very bad controlling time. So, but before, okay, we do that now. Okay, I don't know how are we? Okay, so we are gonna leave like a few questions for anyone who want to join to ask about anything you want. You have the chance. There is a mic or something there.
Do I do it in English or is okay? Hi, Josh.
Hi.
Welcome to Madrid. Congratulations, the movie was fantastic. You already talked a lot about this sequence, but I came this very fresh. I didn't see any trailer. I just see a few clips online, and this was fantastic. Like, I don't know the rating of the film. I imagine like kids can go watch it, but like I saw Megatron, like I thought the point that he was going to transform was killing the leader of the Sentinels, but it was the leader of the city. I don't remember her name. Sorry.
Sentinel Prime.
Sentinel Prime. So, like I know the sequence is like black and white with Megatron and Optimus. Why don't do it before? Like, I don't know. Like, I know he's killing the leader of the city, and it's like more impactful maybe. But like, why he show mercy? I don't know how did that work.
I see. Yeah, all of his all the blame that he has, all of his anger, is focused on Sentinel, the guy who was his hero. And so that becomes the strongest story point. Like if he takes down the one person who is lying to everybody. So in a way, it makes you, he's doing it for everyone, not just for himself. Is a way he could justify it. But that became the ticking clock in a sense. It was like, if he can get to Sentinel, then there's going to be trouble.
¿Cómo fue trabajar con Chris?
What was that?
How was working with Thor?
Oh. I fell in love with him. He's great. He really is. He has a very good, like I said, he's a very smart writer. I told him you should be a writer because he came up with really amazing ideas. And he's also really funny, and not like funny like he's trying to be funny, but he'll just kind of say something kind of off the cuff, and it makes me laugh out loud. And he just kind of, But he's great. He's everything you want him to be. He's pretty good looking too. He's okay.
It's okay, yeah.
question is, why does D16, I think it was, turned into the bad guy?
Why does he turn into it? Well, Megatron is the bad guy that we know that he will become. But if you didn't know that, it's because he felt betrayed. He felt betrayed by the leadership, and he ultimately felt betrayed by his best friend. And so the moment that he does kill Sentinel, like we talked about, but if you notice the eyes, the moment that they turn red is when he decides to let go of Orion, like destroy that friendship. And so that's the real moment that he becomes a bad guy.
Yeah. Hello. Here.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations for the film. As a long-time fan of the franchise, it feels like a new beginning for new generations. Cool. I wanted to ask, this is your first time working on a big budget project without being an active part of the screenplay. How does this difference affect your workflow and your general vision of the project?
I just want to repeat that back. First time doing a big budget film outside of what?
Yeah, without being part of the screenplay.
Oh, no, I was definitely part of the screenplay.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No.
But it's not in IMDb. I check in IMDb,
Yeah,
and then by conversation and other interviews,
Yeah.
so I was like, well, I don't know if this.
Yeah, I didn't get credit on this one, but I did a lot of writing as well.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I did a lot of writing.
Okay. We believe you. We believe
Okay.
you. That's fine.
I don't know what else to say.
So, hi.
Hi.
Josh. So, first of all, I have to be honest, I didn't really know anything about Transformers at all, and I really enjoyed the movie.
Oh, thank you.
Like, a lot. And you said you went into art school for being a 2D artist, and here I have, like, some friends with me that we are all into, like, animation studies.
Nice.
And I wish that we could someday reach this level of, I don't know, professionality. So, like, I was wondering if you had any tips or any, like, things that we have to take into consideration to, reach this.
One of the best pieces of advice I ever received was to always draw. It doesn't matter what you want to do, if you want to be an animator or a character designer or anything, but anything within in the field, on the creative side, drawing skills are so important, because I still do it today when I need to show my storyboard artist an idea that I'm thinking of. I go, oh, let me get the pad real quick, like this. And they go, oh yeah, cool. There's so much, it's the whole drawing, picture's worth 1,000 words thing. So it's just a great tool for communicating across the board. The other thing I always say is you could be the best artist, the best animator, best person, best director in the world, but if you're a jerk, nobody wants to work with you.
Cool.
And I know it sounds obvious, but it's true. And so just be cool. But to just work hard and work and that was my my thing when I was an intern at Pixar. I was the first one in at the beginning of the day and the last one to leave at the end of the day, because I didn't want to get fired. But I also loved the job, and I loved being there. I love working with creative people. I love that you have your friends with you, because it's like that's the people you want to be working with. So that's fantastic. Thanks.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
Thank you for being there. It's incredible. This interview is super interesting. Congratulations for the movie.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing. But I want to talk with you about something important.
Uh-oh.
And this is the toys. Man, Transformers is a toys. I really have very interesting in know how many pressure have by Hasbro in your directing team to build a new toys. Your movie it's okay, but we have a very very big new line of toys for everyone, and it is super interesting. But because the new direction of your movie is super good for the movie, at the same time, it's a good transformer, because it's a good robot and a good vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I see the movie with my child, and my child won't buy everything of the merchandising, and I hate you now, but I give you the congratulations for that. You do a very good job. Break my money, my back. Thank you.
Well, just so you know, I don't get any of that money, so it's you don't come back at me for the toys. You know, it was. I was worried about that before I started the project because I was thinking, are they going to just give me a bunch of characters and go, hey, make the movie about this? And they told me they wouldn't. They wouldn't do that. And so I said, okay, well, here we go. And they were great. I would show them, they knew the story, they knew the script because they were following along, and I'd show them designs, and they loved them. In fact, it was more just them going like, as opposed to like, oh, you should change this and do that. They were just very excited to, because the truth of the matter is they want something new. They wanted to not just do another version of the live action or the earlier cartoons that are out there. They wanted something brand new. And so I think it helped too that you have a main character that looks 3 different ways. That's 3 different toys. So I think I know for a fact they're very happy. And I am sorry about your wallet. It's mine as well, because I have a toy collection at home, and it's not helping.
Hi, sorry.
Hi.
I'm not used to using mic. One thing I wanted to say first is like, sorry, I'm a little nervous. First time I'm doing this.
It's okay.
I'm a big fan of like the whole franchise, thanks to my dad. When I was a kid, he had like all the old series in DVDs, and I watched it all like with 6, 7 years with him, like everything. And seeing the start of how Optimus became Optimus and Megatron was just like, this is my childhood. What just happened here? And even if you know what is going to happen, it was just like amazing. So for real, I know you got a lot of congratulations, but I wanted to say congratulations again for real.
Oh, thank you.
It was the most amazing movie I have seen like this year.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
My question right now is like, because I know that the whole process of making a movie, an animated movie, it is like very hard, difficult, it takes a lot of time. And I know that there are moments where like you just like want to give up and you don't know how to overcome something. I want to know like what's the best way of overcoming a very rough patch and you don't know how to continue and you want to just give up and say, excuse for my words, fuck this movie.
Oh, wow, that's a fantastic question. It's a long process. I was on this film for four plus years. And there becomes a moment when you are in the middle of the tunnel where you can't see where the beginning and you can't see where the end was. And that's the hardest part because you have to try and find the light and go, I think that's it. I hope it's not a train coming at me. I hope that's the end of the tunnel. And it's very, very difficult. And I think for me, I need to, well, first of all, I have my wife. She's my rock for everything. But then my crew as well, I have to lean on them and I have to trust them and trust my gut too. But because there are days when it's exactly what you just said, where I'm just like, I don't. First of all, I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. And then on top of that, it's like I'm not the right person for this. But I've already started. So yeah, I think I know every artist has that, and same with actors, and it's just. It looks like, you're right. I'm sitting up here at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, it's a long, hard journey. So just trust your gut is probably the best thing I could say about that.
I think that was a very good question and answer to finish because it was really, really cool. But I want to ask you just one thing. I don't know if we have time for more or we even have more. There is someone else. Oh, sorry about that. Forget about everything. It was not that good. And we have another one there.
So hello, my name is Eric, and I want to ask why the characters like Optimus Prime and all like Bumblebee and Megatron, they like had another name like Dick 16, and they don't progress in that name till like, for example, Megatron, that like he gets angry and gets to becoming the villain.
Why did we wait till then?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to wait until until the characters had fully changed, not just physically, but also mentally, and then they can take on the new name as a symbol of that. So in the original, in Ryan Pax and D16 are actually the names of the characters based in the lore before they change, and so I thought it was important to hold on to that and just to remind us that they're not those characters yet until that very moment.
Now, yes. Okay. I didn't want to interrupt anyone else. So I want to ask you one last question. What, at least from me, like I'm really impressed with your career. We're talking about that before. Also, you're a story artist and I'm a story artist. So I like to think like, how can I get there? You know. So my question is like, when are we going to see a movie, just call it movie with no toys related? You know, like what's gonna be next with no toys? Like there is something there you can. Something you can tell us, because you're also a writer, so I will be very excited to see like a new thing coming from you.
I have. First of all, I don't have any plans after this. I mean, I want to take a break, but for at least a week, and then
just a week. My God! Oh, you are not very Spanish.
But
we take like a year.
But I would love to do an original film that's all my own idea, because I've worked on many franchises and a lot of original films helping other people make their stories. But yeah, I would like to do that. I think that would be a lot of fun. It's a tough time right now because franchises are what makes money, and that's what Hollywood likes to do, is make money. So it's, original films are few and far between, but I would like to do something. I want to keep pushing myself. I want to keep doing some stuff that makes me uncomfortable. Because I don't want to get comfortable. I don't want to just make the same thing over and over again. I want to do something new. And the technology today is so crazy that you can push things. And I want to try pushing.
Well, if you need a story artist for that movie, you can tell me. I do okay, all right? So that's it. We have the time. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you Paramount and Hasbro and
you,
Academy
everybody.
for this great opportunity. Very cool, man.